In the fading glow of an autumn sunset, crisp winds dance through the towering Douglas firs surrounding Alex Morrison's cabin. He steps onto his porch, feeling the cold breath of an approaching winter. And there, on his welcome mat, sit two tiny, trembling shapes. At first, he thinks they're ordinary kittens, fragile and scared in the chill morning air. But as he leans in for a closer look, his heart skips a beat. These are not house cats at all, but wild bobcat cubs, orphaned and alone. What would you do if nature itself showed up on your doorstep, begging for help? Alex, now 45, never planned on living this far from Portland. Just 5 years ago, he was a celebrated wildlife photographer, roaming the concrete jungle to capture bears, cougars, and wolves for top nature magazines. But after losing his wife, Claire, to cancer 3 years ago, every street corner in the city whispered painful memories of their life together, coffee dates, evening strolls, laughter echoing off cafe walls. Claire used to dream of waking to birdsong instead of traffic noise, and so Alex packed his cameras and traded skyscrapers for 100 acres of pure Oregon wilderness. Among rolling meadows, dense pine forests, and a crystal-clear stream, he rebuilt an old ranger cabin with his own hands, solar panels on the roof, a satellite dish tucked in the trees, so he could stay connected, but still answer the call of the wild. Even now, surrounded by birds at dawn and the scent of pine needles underfoot, he wonders if this escape was enough to quiet his heart and whether the tiny visitors at his door might change everything again. That chilly October morning. Alex rose before the sun and brewed strong coffee from beans roasted 30 miles away. Plans for the day jostled in his mind, winterized the generator, reorganized the root cellar, finished sealing a draft in the loft. But all those tasks vanished when he heard a soft, plaintive mew at the door. Beer, the door. He trained his ear to differentiate bird calls and distant howls, but this cry was new, urgent, gentle, almost human. Peering through the dusty window, he saw a small bobcat kit no bigger than a kitten. Its spotted fur ruffled by the breeze, blue-grey eyes still clouded with youth gazing up at him with desperate trust. His photographer's instinct screamed to capture the shot. But his heart said, help. He crept inside, grabbed a piece of fresh fish he'd caught the day before, and carefully slid it under the door. The little cub froze, then inched forward, its nose twitching at the scent, and devoured the fish in one surprised gulp. For a heartbeat, it looked back at Alex as if to say a thank you, then vanished into the underbrush, leaving him breathless, cups of coffee forgotten. At dawn on the next clear, frosty morning, Alex's jaw dropped again. 6 more bobcat kits stood in a semicircle before his door, a magnificent mother bobcat poised protectively at their side. Frost painted delicate lace-like patterns on the window as the mother's black-tipped ear. Tufts stood tall, her spotted coat, ear tufts, stood tall, her spotted coat gleaming in the pale light. Alex recognized the smallest cub from yesterday, slightly scrawnier, the same telltale pattern on its forehead. He fetched more fish, cracked the door just enough to scatter pieces on the welcome mat, and slipped back inside. Through his camera's viewfinder, he watched the kits clamber forward, their mother watching every move, but never chasing them away. It was a moment of pure magic. An entire bobcat family treating a human as a safe haven, and Alex's pulse pounded knowing he was witnessing something almost nobody ever sees. Over the next hour, Alex watched the kits tumble in the clearing, stalking fallen leaves and pouncing on each other with clumsy glee. Luna, the name he later gave their mother, sat nearby in a crouch, occasionally rising to demonstrate a swift, precise hunting move like a dancer guiding her students. Scout, the smallest, was the boldest, edging closest to the cabin, as if daring Alex to come out. In that moment, when Scout paused and stared straight through the crack in the door, Alex felt a bridge form between his world and theirs. Could a wild bobcat truly learn to trust a human? As the kits scampered back under the trees, Alex sank into his favourite armchair, camera still in hand. He thought of Claire and how she would have marvelled at this scene, the playful cubs, the silent pact of trust, the raw beauty of nature unfolding so close to home. That evening, he pored over bobcat behaviour studies and discovered that these normally solitary cats sometimes tolerate human presence when winter makes food scarce, especially with a large litter like Luna's. The discovery hit him like a fresh breeze. If he could help without harming their wild instincts, maybe he could give these cubs a fighting chance at survival. In the days that followed, Alex settled into a careful routine. Each dawn, he left a small pile of fish on the welcome mat. Matt. Always mindful not to feed them too much and make them dependent. He watched Scout's curious waddle, the dark-coated sibling who hung close to Luna, and the biggest cub who subtly positioned itself between the others and any perceived threat. Luna herself showed surprising intelligence. She let her kits eat first, tolerated Alex's presence just outside, yet never let her guard down. It was a delicate balance. Kindness without ownership, support without captivity. Each morning brought a new revelation about their personalities and deepened the mystery of their bond. One snowy morning, Alex awoke to an empty clearing and feared the worst. Yet, in the fresh snow, he spotted Bobcat tracks leading toward the stream that wound through his land. Throwing on a coat and grabbing his camera, he followed the prints to find Luna patiently teaching her cubs to fish. With a lightning-quick scoop of her paw, she plucked a wriggling fish from the shallow water, while Scout, in true form, made repeated, clumsy attempts to copy her. Watching this family school in the frozen creek, Alex felt a spark. This wasn't just a photo shoot. It was a story about trust, survival, and the meeting point of two worlds. That evening, he began writing an article to pair with his images, determined to share not only the technical side of his craft, but the deep emotional impact of these intimate lessons from the wild. His article went live in several nature magazines and spread across social media like wildfire. Readers wrote in droves, many sharing their own brushes with wildlife and debating the fine line between helping animals and keeping them wild. Alex found himself at the center of discussions on ethical stewardship and the responsibilities humans bear when we cross paths with creatures we share this planet with. But beyond the online chatter, he knew that if just one person looked at a bobcat or any wild animal with more respect and patience, his efforts, and Luna's trust, would have made a real difference. As winter clenched the Oregon wilderness, the bobcat visits grew scarce. Luna needed to range farther for food, and her growing cubs required new hunting grounds. Then, on a crystal-clear December morning, they returned one last time. The kits were almost as large as their mother now, moving with the stealth of young adults. Scout paused beneath Alex's window, lifted a paw and pressed it against the glass in what felt like a silent farewell. And just like that, the clearing fell silent. No more soft paws, no more playful tumbles, only the echo of what had been. Spring's thaw brought new life to the land and occasional distant flashes of spotted fur in the meadow. Alex liked to think Scout, or one of its siblings, still remembered the kindness they'd found on that doorstep. Inspired by the winter's lessons, he partnered with local conservation groups, using his photos and stories to advocate for habitat preservation. He began running wildlife photography workshops, teaching students not just camera settings, but the art of patience, respect, and ethical behavior in the field. In time, his cabin became a gathering place for enthusiasts and conservationists. His images hung in galleries and museums, and his story became legend among those who champion the wild. On quiet mornings, Alex still leaves his door slightly ajar, a steaming mug in hand. Listening for familiar mews in the clearing. Though the family never returned as a group, he sometimes spots a lone bobcat with a unique pattern on its forehead, slinking through the trees. In those moments, he smiles, remembering the tiny kit that first appeared at his door and the extraordinary journey that followed. The legacy of that winter ripples outward, reminding us that small acts of compassion can forge bonds stronger than fear, and that in helping the wild, we help heal ourselves. The story isn't over. It's written every day in the hush between the trees, waiting for anyone patient enough to listen.